Hello and welcome to the Joinery Business Podcast. Often as a worker or even a business owner, you can often find yourself in distraction mode. I myself am someone who can relate with this quite a bit. Maybe you're very productive for 30 minutes or an hour and then find yourself being distracted more often than you're working. It can be a hard mode to fall out of, but there are some methods and tactics you can take to get yourself back into productive mode. In today's episode, Bruce goes over some of the methods you could take to take yourself out of distraction mode and into productive mode. If you have any questions about today's episode, be sure to jump on over to the Joinery Business Hub on Facebook. Now, without further ado, let's jump into today's episode.
Hey, welcome back to the Joinery Business Podcast. Once again, welcome with a cup of coffee. As you might be aware, I love coffee. All right, so today, this podcast is a topic that's actually really close to my heart. And it's close to my heart because it affects everybody in the world. And we've seen humans evolve so quickly in the last 30 years. And sometimes in a good way and sometimes in not a good way. What is absolutely true about human evolution, let's say, or as humans have grown in technology, as technology has advanced, the one constant that keeps us all going together is communication. How do we communicate with each other? If you go back far enough, we had birds flying around with notes. Then we had, the telephone that got created, and then the fax machine, and all these forms of communication through technology. And of course, as soon as the internet came around, what it did was it accelerated communication at a rate that the world had never seen. Communication in different channels was increasing and improving as time went on. The mobile phone, when it came out, that dramatically increased communication. People had a phone basically on their person at all times. So that had a moderate increase in communication. But the internet all of a sudden meant I can communicate with somebody right now. And the ability to communicate and exchange ideas, just the dial just went up. So information is now available at your fingertips. Okay, so we now accept that. That's history. That is exactly what happened. How has it affected us as humans is the question and the topic that I'm bringing on today. We often hear governments around all sorts of countries around the world saying, we're having a look at productivity in our country. Productivity is down. People aren't as productive as they used to be. Industry is, having troubles with productivity. And there's all kinds of reports and studies that have been done on this. I'm here to talk about what I believe without any scientific data to back it up, what I believe. And I totally welcome anybody jumping into this conversation to either debunk what I'm saying or support it or just participate, whichever you prefer. But what I believe has happened over time is this ability to have information at your fingertips has actually created the problem that we see in industry and business in general, lack of productivity. And the reason for that is because humans' brains now is almost always in distraction mode. It wasn't that long ago we could work pretty comfortably for a couple of hours and not be internally distracted in our own brain. We could focus on something for an hour, hour and a half without any real problems. Today, it's almost impossible for anybody to focus any longer than 5 or 10 minutes without feeling this obsessive need to check your phone. Now that has to result in lack of productivity. That has to result in humans being less productive because we can't stay focused to get things done like we should. So I'm here to talk about this, regardless of whether it's scientifically true or whether it isn't. We can observe people and see that it actually is happening. And so what do we do about this? Well, the first thing is we talk about two types of distractions that can happen to you. The internal distraction that happens in your brain, that's something that you have control over. So that internal distraction is something that you can set yourself up for success or you can set yourself up for failure. It's your choice. And what I mean by this is you can allocate times for you to achieve a task in. And if you say to yourself, well, I'm just going to focus for the next 2 hours on this task, you're setting yourself up for failure because there is absolutely no way you're going to work in 2 hours undistracted. It just isn't going to work. There may be some of you that can work undistracted for 2 hours. I grant you that. But the most of the people that I deal with, including myself, can't work for 2 hours being internally undistracted. So what you really want to work out is what is the time that you can do something and dedicate yourself to working undistracted in. It might be 15 minutes. It might be 30 minutes. Make sure that you have that period of time set in front of you so that you can say, great, for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to get it done. And you actually do not allow yourself to get distracted on anything else. Block out any times, but internally in your brain, the first focus is, how can you work undistracted, and what period of time is that going to be so that you can do that? Everybody's a little bit different. So that's why everybody's work week or ideal time blocking is going to be a little different. As I said, there might be some people that can work undistracted internally for 2 hours. So they might set 2 hours. But there is a law out there called Parkinson's law. If you know anything about Parkinson's law, it basically says work will expand to fill the space given to it. So in other words, if you start your work week, let's say that you're a cabinet joinery business owner and you've got to do your quotes this week. And if you start the week saying, okay, I've got to get all my quoting done this week. And if the reality is that the amount of quoting that you need to do, if you were able to do that in an undistracted period of time, you could probably get it done in 2 hours. That might be the case. But if you don't block yourself out, a half an hour for one and a half an hour for another one and half an hour for another one, you start out going, I've got no predefined periods of time to get it done. So you just get internally distracted the whole time you start. And pretty soon it's Friday and you haven't gotten anything done. So Parkinson's law says, well, you just work expanded to fill the space you gave it. You gave it a full week. That meant time blew out to fill that space and you didn't get it done. If you say, I want to get this one quote done in the next 30 minutes, you've actually just compressed the period of time it takes you to do something, and you've allowed yourself to be successful to get it done in that period of time. So the first point is work out your internal distractions so that you don't get distracted by giving yourself the amount of time that you can work undistracted. The second thing that we need to figure out how to fix is the external distractions. You might be able to work undistracted for half an hour, but if you're getting distracted by people coming up to you saying, hey, what about this and what about that? If you're allowing yourself to not be completely removed from the external distractions, then removing internal distractions isn't going to help you too much because externally people are interrupting you. So this is where a couple of things can happen. You can lock yourself in your office, lock the door. People can knock on the door, but you can ignore it. Or you can put a sign on the door and lock the door and say, I'll be available at 1 o'clock. If you don't have a door, because a lot of people work in open offices these days, you can make a sign that goes up on your desk and say, I'll be available at 1 o'clock. And if someone comes up to you and ignores the sign, all you do is you point to the sign. You don't even have to respond. You just point to the sign. They will then look at the sign and go, okay, well, I'll be back at 1 o'clock. So you can actually control this and start limiting the external distractions. And I have to tell you that when I observe some of our clients and just people in general that have implemented this type of strategy, it is absolutely game-changing. You can jump on YouTube right now and you can find people that'll say, well, how do I get you an extra day back in your week where you don't have to do anything? This is exactly how you can do this. One of my friends, his name is Ronsley, and he called this putting compression pants on your calendar. And essentially what he's saying is compress the period of time you're getting to do things, limit the things that you're going to do, and you get things done faster and you have more time left over in the week. And it does actually work very well. If we go back in time far enough, where we didn't have these internal distraction mode in our brain as much, and we didn't have as many external distractions, we were actually getting much more done. We were more productive. And that's why today we talk about businesses and teams not being productive anymore. So I'd love to open a conversation on this and ask for anybody that has any feedback on this, if you want to debunk what I've just said, because it is absolutely not scientific in any way, but I'd love to open a conversation. So have a go. I'm here for anything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Jump on our Facebook group, the Joinery Business Hub. Put a comment in the box below or above, wherever the comment is, and let's have a chat. Bruce from the podcast, peace out.